Sound and camera. Yeah. It's up to you, sir.
Thank you. It's our first recording for 2025 at Tribal Media House. Debza doesn't believe in New Year's.
Oh, is this because he doesn't believe in New Year's in general or in New Year's in terms of the African calendar?
He used to be pro-black. I feel like he's kind of slipping now. But I don't think it's because of the African New Year, which is the 23rd of September.
Yeah.
He's just like this whole illusion of 31st of December, all your problems ended. And the 1st of January, all of a sudden you're on a clean slate when you still have the same debt problems, weight gain.
New year, new me.
You said Ozempic is not a weight loss drug.
No, that's not what it was designed for. It's actually for diabetics. But
In what
people
sense?
it helps with their insulin resistance, etc. But people are now using it as a weight loss drug. And it's actually a serious issue because those who need it, who are actually diabetic, are not able to access because there's never stock.
Because Idudla have now monopolized and eaten the... Do you understand? I know this is unfair because you're not a medical
You like
professional.
asking me unfair questions, but it's fine. I'll answer.
I have to add the disclaimer because you'll answer and people are like, wait, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Exactly.
So this is me trying to protect you.
Oh, thanks.
I know you're not a medical professional as far as I know. Do you know how Ozempic works?
No, I don't know the ins and outs
Okay.
of how it works.
My understanding, because I link it to painkillers, people don't know how painkillers work. So a painkiller doesn't take away the pain.
Reduces inflammation.
It can reduce inflammation. So not all painkillers reduce inflammation. And for the ordinary folk, inflammation is swelling.
Yes.
Right? Not all painkillers reduce. So some painkillers do reduce inflammation, not all of them. The main purpose of a painkiller is not to kill or reduce the pain. It's to switch off the communication between the pain center and your brain type of situation. And I found out, again, I'm also not a medical professional. I found out that Ozempic does the same with your hunger. So when you get hungry, it's meant to send a message to be like, "Hey, Baba, we need to eat."
Okay.
And Ozempic numbs those receptors or those transmitters of that information so that your brain, you're hungry, but your brain doesn't register. So then you don't eat because
And
of
then your
that.
appetite is suppressed, basically.
Hopefully over time with adjustment, your appetite then gets suppressed because your body adjusts to not eating as much. What's meant to happen is obviously once you get off the Ozempic, your brain and your body is meant to have adjusted to be like, I don't need to eat as much anymore.
Exactly.
But I'm convinced that the human body is not the way we've been taught it is by science.
In what sense? What do you mean? Like, as in we don't need to eat as much as we do?
I think science tells us that our brain is the center of all communication with the rest of the body. I don't think so. I think there are parts of the body that have their own brains, if that makes sense. I think there are parts of the body that do their own thing. So your brain may not realize if your leg is twitching and someone's like, what's going on with your leg? And you're like, oh, snap, I didn't see that. I think it's because the brain doesn't do everything. I think it's a head office, but I think there's branches of the body that can be autonomous in certain aspects.
Wonder if there's the science to back it up, but it makes sense.
Why would you need a science to back it up?
No, just to know.
No, but why would you need a science
Because I want
back
to
it up?
know. If it is true,
Sure.
then that's a serious revelation that could reframe people's minds and their thinking. If there's an actual fact that backs it up, because people don't believe in lived experiences, unfortunately.
And you're one of them.
I'm one of those people who don't believe that all facts need to be backed. I don't believe that. But I do understand why people believe that facts need to be backed. I just feel like it's crazy how lived experience is not regarded as fact. I think it's a bit silly sometimes. We don't always need a fact. Some things you can rely on your own personal observation. If you've had multiple conversations with people that don't know each other, are in different cities, different countries, and there's a common thread, just because the research hasn't been done doesn't mean that it's not a fact. Black tax is an example. We all knew that black tax was a thing, but the first studies on black tax were only published in 2009.
That's when it came into existence.
No, it didn't. It always
No, I'm just
existed.
saying.
Exactly. According to. So like sometimes this back it up with stats thing bores me because it's like, but you've been taught by the educational system, again, to not trust your own observation. You need a piece of paper to tell you what you already know.
Anecdotal evidence, I think abantu abafundile call it.
Yes.
And until you've collected enough of it according to science, whatever their criteria is, then it becomes a fact.
Exactly.
One of the things I've put on social media, and I'm scared on YouTube because YouTube likes picking up this thing of medical misinformation. And it makes me sad because it censors us, of course, but it doesn't allow us to engage because Twitter has community notes. So you can post something and then people are allowed to come and say, no, this is not true. And Mark Zuckerberg just recently on Meta said that they're taking away their fact checkers.
Yes,
as
I saw
third
that
party.
video. Yeah.
And they're adding also something like community notes. And it's like, why doesn't YouTube just add the same instead of taking our videos down?
Exactly.
Especially when we speak about the so-called pandemic, we can't even use the word of what the pandemic was for. I think that just triggers an algorithm or something. Fertility. I've had a couple of guests come here to speak about fertility, specifically female menopause. Konusiswa Kamadlala that came through here to speak about it. She's written a book. Some of the conversations I've had with health professionals is contraceptives are one of the causes of infertility.
Yeah.
And the medical industry doesn't want to speak about it. But to what you're saying, there is science to back this thing. The loop is dangerous. The implant is dangerous. At some point, we knew the injection was dangerous because even after you get off it, people have irregular periods and heavy bleeding. The pill, I think, might still be the mildest, but continuous use of this stuff over time. Because again, we speak about tricking the body. If you're telling your body to not clean the system and you're not bleeding and cleaning out as a woman,
what's happening?
What's actually happening?
Exactly. I've always had an issue with contraceptives. I've limited my use, hence I have all these children.
Ow. Sibonge umama that says, enigma. Contraceptives are a sin. Okay.
I've never liked how they made me feel. So I was not willing to put myself in a position where I don't feel good because somebody says I should use this thing. I mean, come on, guys. There's condoms in the world.
If we think about it, just between me and you, as non-health professionals, what is one of these things doing? So you're having unprotected sex, a guy is ejaculating inside you. Yeah. No, that's too far. End of the month comes and no. Okay, a guy ejaculates inside you.
Yeah.
You're meant to, the sperm is meant to fertilize eggs.
Yes.
Which you're born with even before your mom had you, as an example.
Yes.
What happens? Does the sperm get blocked? Do the eggs become, like, is there something released by your body to make the sperm ineffective? Or do these contraceptives, after the egg is fertilized, kill this?
So my understanding is it thickens, so your uterus inside, there will be a thicker mucus layer that prevents the fertilized egg from sticking to the womb. From sticking?
Yes. So the egg gets fertilized?
Yes.
From your understanding?
It just doesn't stick.
And it goes out?
Yeah.
And then some of these things mess up your periods?
Yeah. And they just cause unnecessary drama, mood swings, and all this nonsense. I'm just not into it, eh?
It's one of the posts that trended on Facebook for me years ago. And there were a couple of doctors that came into the comments. You don't know what you're talking about. Are you even a doctor? Why would you say this? It's misleading. And there was an immense amount of women that were like, I agree with you because I have experienced.
Yes.
I've struggled with.
Yes.
I came off. And again, anecdotal evidence. And we've seen a lot of these pharmaceutical companies with their science and research and whatever who go out and then people come back and they're like, but Johnson & Johnson has asbestos and it's made us sick and it's given us cancer. And then these guys pay billions in fines. But then they just keep it moving. It's like it took a few people to actually be like, but there's something wrong here. To get lawyers to fight these people to be like, but this thing is real. And when people say, but we've been experiencing these things, and then sometimes get annoyed with doctors. They come and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, bro, this is not your drug. Exactly. This is not your industry. You just read this in a textbook and you're just a peddler of what you were taught. Don't take it personally. Your mom didn't invent medicine and you don't own people's bodies.
Also, traditional medicine has been a thing for a very long time. I think during the pandemic, there was also this hype around umhlonyan or artemisia.
Yeah.
And doctors were like, don't use it, don't use it. But these are things that we know in the African community have worked. Why shouldn't we?
Are you a practitioner of traditional medicine?
Not really a practitioner, but I'm into traditional ways of healing. So I've researched and studied cannabis, and I'm actually a part-time lecturer at the Gordon Institute of Business Science.
Brilliant.
And they have an online academy that they've just started, and we teach people about cannabis. It's health benefits, etc.
Insang.
Yes.
You promote Insang?
I don't know about promote. I teach
about
facts.
the positive uses.
Yes.
Which is a promotion. Of
Insang. You teach both positive and negative if you are a intelligent person who is more worried about facts than actually pushing people towards an agenda.
What are the negatives of cannabis?
If you are a person who suffers from addiction, there are chances that you will get addicted. However, cannabis in its nature is not physically addictive. You can be psychologically addicted because of your own psychological addiction behaviors, but no.
Even smoking?
You can be addicted to smoking. So a lot of people think that this is going to get taken down. Hey, we shouldn't go too deep into this. But
you think so? On cannabis?
Yeah.
Cannabis
YouTube doesn't like cannabis either. But like they either take it down or they put a shadow ban, so the content doesn't reach as much of an audience as it would.
Jeez, okay.
So, but just to clarify, you guys can decide whether you want to keep this in or edit it out.
Yeah.
A lot of people use cannabis and they mix it with tobacco when they smoke.
Okay.
That's where the confusion begins, because you're mixing a very highly toxic and addictive substance with something that is not meant to be mixed with that. So then you think you're addicted to cannabis, but you're actually addicted to the tobacco that you're mixing into your cannabis.
Is tobacco addictive?
Highly.
Are you talking about normal tobacco? So cannabis is a leaf, right?
Yes.
Tobacco is a leaf.
Tobacco with nicotine and all of these things that they put into cigarettes.
So not tobacco. You don't know.
What would be the... Do they sell cigarettes that are 100% nicotine and 100% tobacco, or is there like a mix?
So I'm trying to get the clarity, because you're isolating the cannabis leaf from a cigarette.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
My understanding of a cigarette is it has a number of ingredients in it.
Right.
One of it being tobacco, which is also a leaf.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out if you're saying tobacco, the leaf, is a problem,
yes,
or if you're saying no, it's the other ingredients in a cigarette. So maybe cannabis and tobacco is fine.
What also happens when you add combustion to a plant, right? When you start to add fire, the chemical composition of that plant changes. So it could be that tobacco in its pure form without the fire added is okay.
Okay.
But I don't have the science or the facts to back that up. But there's a chemical reaction that happens that doesn't really agree with the body.
And you believe it's tobacco only? No,
and nicotine, yes. So with cannabis, what happens is smoking anything is never good for you because you are inhaling something into your lungs. So we don't promote that be your primary version of consumption of cannabis. Obviously, people have a choice. They can consume it how they want.
Yeah.
But if you decide to smoke something and inhale it, you are putting yourself at a risk of some sort, right? Sure. But in terms of addiction, the substance in itself is not addictive.
The cannabis plant?
Yes.
You're not aware if the tobacco plant is addictive or not?
It is addictive.
The plant on its own?
No. I mean, like when you smoke it, it is addictive. But the plant on its own, I don't know. I don't have the right information for that.
So I'm sorry to get technical.
But opium as well, right? People use it in different ways. What's that drug that you get from opium? What is
morphine?
It called? No. There's the other highly addictive substance that people actually use as a drug. Yes, morphine, yes, is one of them. But there's this other one, man.
I'm going to type in opium drug here. Opium
just
drug.
Type in opium drug and search there.
Street names for opium. Nothing of this looks Familiar. Popular opium drugs, morphine, codeine, heroin.
Heroin, yes, that's the one I was looking for.
Sure.
So opium is a plant, right?
Opium is poppy seeds, no?
Yes, it comes from, but are poppy seeds messed up? No, they're not, right? But if you create certain chemical reactions in it, it can produce a certain thing. So that's why I'm saying I don't know if the tobacco leaf is addictive in and of itself, or is it the chemical reactions that happen that cause the addiction?
We've already jumped onto Google. Let me just keep it going. Can
Keep it
tobacco
going
be
with
addictive on its own? No, tobacco itself is not addictive. But the nicotine in tobacco is highly addictive. So the problem is nicotine
is found in tobacco. Got you.
This is why I was trying to get technical, because we're going to say cannabis is fine, tobacco is a problem. But tobacco might not be a problem. It's something else.
It might just be something else.
And the something else is nicotine.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I don't know if we finished that point. Cannabis, you teach cannabis. You can consume it in different ways.
Yes.
You're saying cannabis on its own is not addictive. We're saying now tobacco is also not addictive. It's nicotine. It's what you consume the cannabis with.
Yes. So if you're somebody who likes to mix and you like to smoke,
sure,
and you're mixing things, then yeah, you are going to get addicted, but you need to be cautious of what you're actually addicted to. So the assumption has always been cannabis. And there's various reasons why cannabis was demonized and a lot of false information was spread. And that's why people are now fighting so hard for the plant, because a lot of us who grew up in the African community know it as a healing plant. So, yeah.
Do you think we should be having a conversation? You spoke about inhaling something that's been burnt. Do you think we should be having a conversation as the African community around other things that get burnt and inhaled, not by choice? You walk into someone's house, they're burning incense. Impepo. Some people might be burning insang in their homes, but you don't know. And there's always kids around inhaling. Next thing, and you don't know what they're burning. So you just think it's weed, but maybe it's weed with some nicotine or whatever. Next thing, your kids have got lung problems and it's like, guys, maybe let's have a deeper conversation around the things we burn in our homes. Have we actually, even as an African community that's played around with modern medicine, have we done research in impepo and what it does? What if some of the problems we have are impepo induced and we're not aware? And as long as people are like, it's impepo, like, but this might be why Odaki are struggling in certain ways, because we keep inhaling this thing that other people don't inhale. And we think we're fighting white monopoly capital and miseducation, and you study the black kids that have not inhaled impepo, and they might be
behaving differently. Could be a study.
You believe love is a mental illness. Please tell us why.
Not you putting words into my mouth. That is your belief. Don't pass that belief on.
No, please tell us why you think love is a mental illness. This is very disturbing.
I don't believe that. I know that you do, though. So maybe you should tell us why you believe love is a mental illness first.
What do you think love is, if you were to explain it to a 5-year-old child?
Look, it's a very complex thing to try to explain, but it comprises of strong feelings for care and attachment, in my opinion. And that attachment is where a lot of people get lost. I think there's healthy love and I think there's unhealthy love. In my opinion, healthy love it consists of things like mutual respect, healthy boundaries, and it promotes growth. Unhealthy love is obsessive. There's also this, what is it called? There's a disease that starts with an E, a mental illness that starts with an E, where you convince yourself that you are in a relationship and in love with somebody you don't even know. So a lot of people...
That you don't know?
Yes.
Is it named after a god?
Erotomania?
Huh? Erotomania, delusion.
Just check erotomania there. What
erotomania is excessive sexual desire. So maybe it's not that. A delusion in which a person, typically a woman, it's very important, believes that another person, typically of a higher social status, is in love with them.
Yes.
So that's the second one under psychiatry.
Yes. So it's the...
Erotomania is when women think some rich man, Uyabatanda, is basically what this is saying. I believe that's how I read it.
You can read it how you want and interpret it how you want.
This is a dictionary. It says here, A delusion in which a person, typically a woman,
Typically, but
believes
not
that another
always.
person, typically of a higher social status, I have to assume a man, is in love with them. So it's a delusion where normally women believe that rich men love them.
Not even higher social status in that sense. It's also like an obsession or a belief that a celebrity is in love with you and you're in love with them. So there's also that part of it. And it can be women, but it can also be men. Stop it.
Erotomania. I didn't create the definition. I was just reading what was written here. Okay.
And it can
erotomania.
also, unhealthy love is also very codependent. So one person is not able to survive without the other person in a very unhealthy way. So that's my definition. Now, a lot of people assume that love is a mental illness because as human beings, we drift, I think it's a spectrum. We drift into healthy love patterns and unhealthy love patterns. Your job is to recognize your unhealthy love patterns, and that's why therapy is so important and should be a prerequisite even in dating relationships, not necessarily marriage. I think you believe that love is a mental illness because you've experienced people who have unhealthy love styles.
Okay, that's the end.
You can have your opinion too, Phela. I'm not going to talk the whole time.
Oh, no problem.
And ngiyakwazi vele uzongiphikisa. So ngiphikise.
You're putting me in a corner now.
No. Ngiphikise.
Oh, I agree with everything you're saying.
Oh.
So next point.
Shock and horror.
50% of all women murdered in South Africa are murdered by their intimate partner.
Yeah. Obsessive love. Unhealthy love.
Hey, no one says that in the stats. 50% of all women that are murdered. One out of every
no one
two
says
women.
That in the stats?
No one says from their obsessive, psychopathic lover. I'm saying 50% of women that are murdered, of all women, could be murdered by a criminal, by a drug addict, by their family member. Okay. But 50% are murdered by their intimate partner.
Yeah.
And we've got many cases now of women, and I don't know why over the festive season there were so many more. I think it's because of this Women for Change and Chris Brown that some people ended up started researching and the police cases were coming out. There are more and more women going around killing men. And for some weird reason, the stories that come out are police officers, female police officers gunning down their partners. The most famous story we normally reference is Flabber's partner.
That was deep.
Again, intimate partner.
Yeah.
Not obsessive, crazy, deranged. We just say intimate partner, which means this person was meant to be someone that loves you.
Right.
Now, that's 50% that were murdered.
Yes.
We're not talking about the rest who have been
abused.
The rest who have been stalked, who have been mentally strained in some way. Some who maybe, if we were to dig deeper, maybe there are women who are taking their lives because of romantic relationships, heartbreak, and the pain that women inflict on men, where men might be taking their lives, where men might say, the reason I beat her up, the reason I killed her was because I felt she was abusing me and I was defending myself. And this is someone you're meant to love. All right?
We live in a sick world, Penuel.
It's a sick world now.
No, it is a sick world. But we can't say that love is the problem.
What's the problem?
We can't put,
before you met that person,
put healthy love as
if
the
you weren't
issue.
in love with that person, they wouldn't have killed you.
No, but that is true. We can't deny that.
The stranger is safer than the person you're in love with. It's the same way we beef with each other as baby mamas and baby daddies. Like if we didn't have a child, we'd be fine. You'd let me play with your kids because they're not mine. As soon as they become mine, there's a hate that potentially can build up. If we didn't love each other, we'd be fine. I wouldn't kill you. But as soon as we love each other, you have a higher chance of being beaten up, murdered, violated in some way by me because we chose to get into this thing.
So what are you saying, Peno? What is your solution? That people shouldn't be in relationships?
That's not what I'm saying.
So where are we going?
There are people that get lung cancer from smoking, people that do funny things from cannabis, people that get into car accidents because of jwalas.
Yes.
There are so many things that happen there are kids that commit suicide going to varsity. People that get hit by a bus going to work to go serve the community. So must they not work because they might get hit by a bus? No. It's
That's
just
why I'm
saying
asking you.
There's a deep danger. We spoke about opium and all these drugs.
Yeah.
There's something in this thing of feelings that as soon as you make a decision to start directing your emotions to someone where you're now starting to, it's a gateway drug into potentially something worse. And it just needs a few triggers. A few triggers.
I think my first point when we started this conversation on love was that we all drift. It's a spectrum.
Sure.
We have narcissistic traits, all of us do. We have beautiful traits about us. Everybody does. But the importance there lies in therapy. And the fact that people don't go to figure out their attachment styles, to figure out their traumas, because a lot of the time, I think we blame what we see as the external factor is love, relationships. But relationships exist between people. People who have psychological issues, people who have traumas, people who have unhealthy attachment styles because of things that happened in their past. And the more we don't want to dig into those things, the more we're going to see issues with people murdering each other. It's just the way it is. And people don't go to therapy. They don't know themselves. They don't even know what their temperament is. They don't know what their disposition is. All of those things are important as a person. You need to know yourself. And when you know yourself, you need to make sure that you are in a relationship with somebody who knows themselves as well. And if that person doesn't know themselves, then it's your prerogative to say, I'm not getting into a relationship with somebody who doesn't understand themselves and is not wanting to make the necessary efforts to get there. So we can blame love, can blame all of these things, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much going on underneath.
Who do you think has hurt children more? Their mothers who claim to love them or strange women in the streets?
By strange women in the streets, what do you mean?
Neighbors, school teachers, just random women versus your mom that's meant to love you.
Well, the person
who do you think
who
has
is
scarred
in-
children more?
The person who is in the closest proximity to you will hurt you. That's true.
Will hurt you.
Yes.
You chose to use the word will.
Yes, people hurt each other
Not
all the
that
time.
there's a chance with
No,
attachment.
it's not about a chance. People hurt each other all the time at different levels, different degrees. As long as you are in close proximity with someone, things are going to happen. Even in friendships, this is the thing. People hurt each other intentionally sometimes unintentionally. Because again, we don't know each other that well. I might say something to you that triggers you. And it triggers you because of something that happened in your past, a memory. But the thing itself may not be a trigger. It's just your personal experiences that inform whether it's a trigger for you or not.
On that close proximity, do you think women have hurt children more than men?
Penuel.
Sekwenze njani, Ntokazi?
Penuel.
Khuleka, this is a safe space.
It's not a safe space because now you're trying to push me to say certain things. But what I will say is men, this is such a horrible generalization, but the primary caregiver is usually the mother.
Correct.
And because you spend more time with your mother, a lot of things can happen in the relationship between you and your mother versus you and your father, who may not be as present. So by hurt, I want you to clarify. Do you mean emotional? Do you mean, what is it? Where are you trying to go?
All the above.
With this?
Emotional, psychological, physical.
Yes, some people do hurt their children physically. It does happen. And if we're going to look at it from, again, a close proximity perspective, if the child is spending more time with their mother, more things are likely to happen in that relationship versus with their father. It doesn't mean that their father is a better person. It just means that they're not in close proximity for ish to actually happen.
I read research at some point where it says, I think mothers 4 times more likely to kill their children than fathers.
What?
4 times more likely.
Why?
But it could speak to this close proximity thing. I just found it interesting because it was at a time where there was all this men are trash and what. And it's like you wonder who pushes the propaganda, because if women are going to keep saying men are hurting us and there's a chance that women are harming children more, no one is saying keep children away from women. because women are hurting children. And it's just interesting how propaganda moves. And even when we speak about this data of 50% of women are killed by their partners, it's a small number of women, because I think I can get the data, but let's say 4,000 women are killed in South Africa every year, and 2,000 of them are killed by their intimate partners.
Yeah.
And let's assume every intimate partner is unique. That's 2,000 men out of about 30 million men. So you can't take those 2,000 men who killed and then be like, men. That's wrong, because we don't do it the other way around as well.
I agree with you
Yeah.
on that point. I think we don't really look at what men go through enough. And I think men are hyper demonized. I think it's just the
Black
way
men
it
in
is.
particular.
Black men in particular. There's a hyper demonization of the black man.
Got one more question for you, but one just came up now. Why do you think single moms are failing to raise? No, let me spin this question another way.
Ha.
So,
Oh, Jesus.
if you go to correctional facilities, prisons, penitentiaries, most of the criminals found there, most of the jailbirds were raised in single mother households, according to data. My question is, what are single mothers doing so bad that they're raising criminals? Because we're tired of hearing they are criminals because their fathers weren't present. And into those same people complain about toxic masculinity. Well, there was no masculinity. He left. So you can't blame him for not being there. You were there raising the child. So what are those single mothers doing so wrong?
The conversation is so nuanced.
That they're breeding criminals.
Penuel, this conversation is too big for you to limit it to it is because women. I don't think that's a fair assessment of the world that we live in. There are various factors that make people want to commit crimes. And you can have the best mother in the world, but if you are living in an informal settlement and there's no money coming in and you feel like that is the only way out, your mother can tell you not to do it. Please don't do it. These are the consequences. But in a world that glorifies material possession and also in a world where we need to eat, these things happen. So to minimize it to women, the conversation is too big.
Why do you think they then minimize it to men being absent, if you're saying it's other factors?
I think it's propaganda again.
Okay.
I think it's a very unfair assessment that if a man is not present, that means that's entirely the reason why the child is this way. And I think in families that are single parent headed, you'll find that there's an older brother, an uncle, a grandfather. There's always a male figure that is present. So I don't think it's fair to shift the blame completely onto the fact that, absent fathers. I'm not saying that it doesn't have an impact. Definitely does. But that can't be the entire reason why men are in jail. It's inaccurate. I think people need to also look at the world that we live in and be honest about what's really going on.
A lot of the people that have these conversations and push this propaganda, it upsets me, but a lot of it is American. And just like you, by the way, I fully agree with you. And there's a reason why I phrased the question the way I did, because it's meant to provoke.
Right.
Because it's very easy to be like, well, the father's absent. Where was the dad?
Exactly. And
then when we ask about the mom, people are very quick to remove accountability. It's not the mom's fault, it was circumstances. I'm like, but why didn't you do that when people were like, it's the dad? Why didn't you say, but maybe it's circumstances? Because we could argue similarly that children of single mothers who have good careers, healthy lives, maybe another partner, her brothers are available, his family is available, maybe not the father per se, school teachers, those children become something. Got a lot of successful people in business and entertainment who are raised by a single parent, but we don't speak about them. We speak about these criminals from single what. And in the American data in particular, I always wish someone could ask. So we've heard a lot of the criminals is because dad wasn't present. So we need fathers to be present. And I want to ask, how many of them are black? Because maybe your conclusion is blacks are criminals. How many of them are poor?
Right.
Because then the conclusion is poor people become criminals. You can't just isolate it to this one factor.
Exactly.
It's mostly, in my opinion, and probably yours as well, socioeconomic. It's not kids from healthy homes. And once we get to that, the question becomes, does a home become healthy just because dad is there, or because dad is not there, or is it something else?
Yeah.
Two very well-off parents, mom killing it in her career, dad killing it in his career. They love each other. They go for therapy. They show love all the time. Make a mutual decision. Our lives are needy, or our careers are need us. Let's send our kids to boarding school. Now, we're not there.
Yeah.
Now the parents are not there. Is that now a broken family?
Right.
Is that a child that has been abandoned? Should they have mommy and daddy issues? Why are those kids at Michael House and Hilton and Bishops and St. John's and St. Stithians and St. Anne's and Rodine, why are they not called broken children? But now the next child, where mom and dad, for whatever reason, sent the child to Gogo, or dad has to go and work somewhere, that child's broken.
Yes.
Let's monitor this child. They're going to become a criminal.
It's not fair. It's not a fair assessment. I agree with you. As someone who was raised by a single parent, actually, I was raised in a very matriarchal home.
Yeah.
So the women in my family run everything. They are the heads of the household. And most of us turned out to have good careers. We're not in jail. So to, again, isolate one thing and make and place an entire argument on it is just a bit silly.
Yeah. Steve Kompela says stats are like a bikini.
Why?
He says they show everything but cover the most important parts.
Oh, I like that.
My last question on this topic was going to be, and look, I know I haven't answered why I think love is a mental illness. I can, but I don't need to today. But it's up to you how much you'd like to learn the answer specifically on this platform.
I feel like if you answer, we're going to go back and forth, so don't.
I shouldn't answer?
No.
Okay. Do you think women are more abusive than men?
Penuel.
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
You think men are more abusive than women?
No,
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. Again, conversations are not that simple. So I can't say yes or no to either. Like, no, I can't say yes, women are more abusive. I can't say yes, men are more abusive. It's no, guys.
Do you think it's 50-50?
We need to apply thinking.
Do you think it's 50-50?
I don't know what it is, and I don't wanna make it a 50-50 thing. I just think that everyone is capable of being extremely good. Everyone is capable of being extremely bad.
Do you think men are more physically abusive to women?
No.
You don't?
No.
You think it might be equal? I think
I've heard so many stories, again, lived experience, anecdotal evidence. I've heard so many stories where the guy will say to me, look, it ended up in an altercation because being shy and I had to defend myself. I've heard those stories before. So I can't say who is more, who is less. I think men, it is always assumed that they are more physically abusive because, again, mainstream media, but also their physical strength attribute that women don't have. And because men are stronger, we associate that with them being more physically violent.
And the damage is more apparent.
And the damage is more apparent than a woman. A woman will probably scratch you unless she is going to grab something and use that to hurt you. But generally, women do not have that much strength.
So in your little bit of life experience,
you
believe it could potentially be 50-50?
It could. I don't know if it is.
No, I mean in your little life experience, not for the world.
Yes,
okay.
It could. In my life experience, the stories that I've heard, I've heard some crazy stories, so yeah.
Do you think women are more emotionally abusive than men?
The questions you're asking me are so hard to answer. No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Similar
I don't
to the
think
physical.
Men are more emotionally abusive either. I think people, again, temperament, disposition. We are not the same. That's why you can have you ever wondered why in a family, let's say you have 3 siblings and you're raised by the same parents, you go to the same schools, everything is the same. And then one of you just decides that they're going to be a nyaope addict. And it doesn't matter that they grew up in this stable environment that was created by your temperament.
Are you giving me diplomatic answers? Are you scared, to be honest?
No, I'm telling the truth. This is how I feel about things in general.
Okay.
I think I'm a very level-headed person. Anybody who knows me personally will tell you this about me.
Sure.
And I'm always in continuous effort to understand people and myself. I think I should study human behavior at some point because I'm very interested in why people behave the way they do.
Is that anthropology?
Is that what it's called? Is that the word for it?
Let's just see what anthropology is first. Scientific study of humans, including their biology, behavior, cultures, societies, and linguistics. Let's see what sociology is. I think my sister is studying towards a master's in sociology. Scientific study of human society that focuses on society, human social behavior, patterns of social relationships, social interaction. So anthropology is individual. Social might be societies and groups.
Yes, I
Maybe.
think so. I think so.
It's not important. Oh, here. Difference between anthropology and sociology. While anthropology is rooted in the characteristics, environment, and culture of human beings and their ancestors, sociology is more focused on topics like social change and the social consequences of human behavior.
Yeah. I'm more interested in why people behave the way they behave.
Psychology.
Yeah. But
Probably.
I would never study psychology. It's a bad idea.
Why?
Not in South Africa.
Why?
It's just a degree that renders itself to be a little bit, what's a nice word for, I don't want to say this word.
Useless.
You said it, not me. If you look at psychology graduates in South Africa, a lot of them they never get employed in that field. I don't have the right information for this, but somebody once told me something along the lines of, you need to study to, I think, a PhD level in order for you to be able to be a psychologist that runs their own practice, either PhD or honors or master's, somewhere there. And then there is only a specific amount of psychologists that are allowed to practice every year, like licenses that are given out every year. And
that's messed up if true.
Yeah, if true, that's messed up. And most of those licenses end up in the hands of people who are of
a lighter
less
shade
melanin than us.
Psychology is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. Its subject matter includes the behavior of humans and non-humans, both conscious and unconscious phenomena. Interesting. Okay. Thank you. Love is a mental illness. I think I said some of the things that I wanted to say, so we can move on. I do caution people to tread cautiously in choosing to offer those feelings of care and in attaching. You said attachment, which is very important because when I do normally post love is a mental illness, and I normally post it after there's a story of domestic violence or a story of someone killing someone else, people must approach it with care. We approach a lot of things with care. Driving a car, maybe taking medicine if you do, to not overdose. I think a similar thing should be done when you decide to specifically get romantically involved. But for me, this applies across the board, even with families. That's why there's so much family drama and politics and kids have daddy issues and mommy issues, because this thing we call love has this attachment thing, or what we call care, and how people care or express their love language may be oppressive to you in some ways. Someone thinks playing hard to get is cool. Someone thinks being jealous is so cute. Someone thinks stalking your life shows that, oh my gosh, this guy's so obsessed with me. It's so crazy. Guys do things like wanting to bend over backwards to appeal to a woman's materialistic whims. And by doing that, the guy sort of goes beyond a line that he would normally stop at, because either she wants it or because the guy she was with before, or she's alluded to, well, if you can't provide these things. So he finds himself doing things that are out of his character. And when he does that and she still hurts him in some way, then he lashes out. And it's like, but you started on this journey. And if someone had cautioned you that just be very careful of this thing, this drug, be careful of this psychological state. Don't be too obsessed with your career. Don't be too obsessed with your hobby. Don't be too obsessed with your kids. Because the day something happens to your kids, your career, your whatever, your mind will break. Next thing, you're shooting people at work.
Yeah.
Next thing, you hate an entire industry. Next thing, you're hurting your partner.
Yeah.
Because you just weren't considerate about how you're caring for this thing and how you're attaching.
Yes, I like how you mention kids, because a lot of people like to, what's the word? They make it okay to have an obsessive attachment with their children, and it's not okay.
It's very unhealthy.
It's such an unhealthy, it can be such an unhealthy relationship. I always say that people don't wake up monster in-laws. It is the product of an extremely unhealthy attachment style to your child.
Why do you think our generation has commitment issues? We spoke about this yesterday. But I'm going to allow you to bite some of my words and sound smart.
Yes. I'll bite you. The one word I remember was too much freedom, which is true. Like, we've got access to so much now. Even in the dating pool, it's increased through social media. It's no longer no lie rounding.
Sure.
The people you know.
Rounding now is the internet.
Exactly.
And the whole world.
And the whole world. You have access to so many people, and therefore you have access to so much choice.
Yeah.
And people also prioritize their careers now. There's different reasons why relationships, what's the word? Relationships happen, and how people find each other.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were still speaking. I'm sorry. I'm just taking notes of the things you said.
Yeah, we've got a lot of choice, guys. And I think...
Do you think choice is a curse? Do you think people shouldn't have choice? People shouldn't have freedom?
Nah, it's a blessing and a curse. I think something good can have negative results.
Yeah.
And the world that we live in now is so big and so different, and there's so much going on that it's natural for it to be like that. Now, do I think it's right or wrong? That's a different question altogether.
Many parents that claim to care about their children limit their freedom of choice in terms of TV consumption, cell phone, social media. Do you think you and I as parents should be doing the same when it comes to our children's dating, to limit their freedom of choice, to almost force them to only jola erandini or within our religion or within the race? Yeah. As a caring, loving parent that has seen the dire consequences of that much freedom.
Look, I'm not for arranged anything, including marriage. I don't think it's the best thing. I understand why people do it. It makes sense. But I still feel like you're taking away people's free will to a certain extent. Sometimes you may think that it's for the person's good, but it could be detrimental to the relationship, especially where children are involved. If you try to be overly controlling with somebody else's choices, the chances of them rejecting and being a rebel are higher than you just giving somebody free will and informing them of the consequences of those decisions. If you decide to do this, this is what may happen. If you decide to do this, this is what may happen. But at the end of the day, we can't say people shouldn't.
Do you think it's not a freedom thing, but an education thing?
In what sense?
You're speaking about not taking away their free will, but informing them.
Yes.
Almost saying maybe freedom is not the problem. Maybe the problem is people are not aware of the consequences of making decisions with this freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it's more of an education thing. Like, people should, as a parent, it's your duty to make your child aware of things that are happening in the world. But you can't control another human being. It's just weird.
How do we fix the next generation? So our parents look at us as failures. Many of us are divorced. We are raising broken families. We have blended families that sometimes are temporary. And they wish we were different. They had problems with their generation. They felt they didn't have as much freedom.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, they almost look like they were better put together than us. Their marriages lasted longer, even if they were a bit miserable. You know, your team begazellas and the like. We're fucked. And we look more sad. We're on drugs. We're going to therapy. We are, and our kids are now going to inherit us, along with these broken families we're raising them in, and they're inheriting LGBTQI+, transgenderism, dating across the world, dating
Yeah.
online, maybe dating with artificial intelligence, all types of sexual perversion
Wait, did you
tools
just say
and
dating
things.
with artificial intelligence? Are you talking about those people who fall in love with AI?
Correct.
Okay.
And at some point it was funny macking on a girl online. It was like, this is not real. Maybe I'll meet up with her through online, then I'll mac. Now, I think if we were to even think about it, you might find that 50 to 90% of relationships exist online. What I mean by that is you and your partner probably have your most contact via cell phone and WhatsApp and video calls, then physical touch, talking. So imagine you and I have got our own AI profiles and avatars online.
Yes.
And at times when I really crave speaking to you and you're not available, you're like, please, can my AI take over? So Pen can chat to my AI as if he's chatting to me, because my AI knows what we were chatting about this morning, what we did, what we're going to do, etc. And then it gets to a point where I'm like, I actually prefer your AI than you, because you kind of annoy me at times. Your AI can sense when I'm not happy and then changes how they speak. And they say all the things that they know that I like.
Yeah.
And then it gets to a point where when we're not together, please just jolla with my AI, because we fight when we're apart, kind of situation. And it gets to a point you're like, maybe do I need to jolla her AI or can I jolla other AIs and then I'll just see her physically?
Yo, guys,
so our kids are going to inherit that
all
world.
of that,
and how do we try and help them? Because we care about them and we don't want them to go through some of the pains we had.
That's true. I think the hardest thing to admit, and this is a conversation that I was having with myself, is that the further we've deviated from religious structures, the worse we seem to get in relationships. Now, this is a harsh reality, but a lot of the complications in our lives are because we haven't abided by that book that we don't like so much.
You're speaking specifically about Christianity?
Any book that applies to you and your religion. There was a certain beauty in waiting for marriage before you have sex, in having children within marriage. And the more we've deviated from those structures, the worse we are getting. So at some point, we have to admit that maybe that life that we were scripted to live should actually be how we're living, to avoid all of these unnecessary complications that we're in right now.
That's taking away freedom.
Kind of, yes.
By books, you include oral books, because we had African spirituality and an African way of living as well, which some could argue could be our own religion back in the day.
Right. Like, in as much as I don't want to live that life, I've never wanted to be that person because I'm a rebel at heart. I don't conform. But when I look at my own life, you kind of come to the realization at some point when you're an adult, Uguti, maybe if I had done it that way, this would have been the result. And maybe the result would have been better than the life that I'm living.
Isn't that just getting old?
What do you mean just getting old?
Retired slave queens become very religious. And all of a sudden they want to be do-gooders and they want to dictate to their kids at age 35 after their high body count and Dubai trips.
And
790 man, you've retired.
That's so true.
And your child is like, no, fuck that. I also want to have a good time. I'll also retire at 35. Is it not just getting older?
It is getting older. I agree with you.
Our parents did the same. They made their mistakes, tried to dictate to us. We were like, fuck that. Maybe we want to do the same to our kids, but it's only because we're old.
But is that the natural progression of life, maybe? That you're supposed to make a mess in the beginning, go through stuff, learn later, fix it. So your question was around how do we help our children navigate through these situations? And they're going to go through things that are going to blow our minds by the time they're of age and that we're not going to be able to wrap our heads around. And the biggest challenge is to be able to impart wisdom and knowledge without enforcing what you think is right. So I think the best way to do it, it's difficult because you don't want to be overbearing, but you share the knowledge that you have and your experience. Again, like, you can't control a person. You really can't.
You can.
How? By putting
With
in
an iron
certain
fist.
laws
With building systems.
and systems.
You and I speak English, and it was never by choice.
Yeah.
This is not free will. So you definitely can force people to do things. So you either incentivize or punish if people deviate from.
What
I
would
mean,
be
there's
the
a reason why
punishment?
certain kids are the way they are. It's because at home the dad was strict, or the mom was this, or I'll lose my scholarship, or my dad will disown me. So there are ways to force people to behave. They may still rebel, but
I was about to
the
ask
cost
you
is
that
much
question.
higher.
The cost is higher to not have laws than that of having and then dealing with the rebellious consequences, is what you're saying.
Arguably.
Okay.
I'm just saying you can control people.
I do agree with you, Pen. I'm not gonna disagree. It may be uncomfortable, like I said, that's not how I would want to raise my children. But I do think that there is benefit to enforcing certain things in the household, in the country, in your community. Some things just need to be a law, punishable when you offend the law. But what would be a punishment for
Cheating.
No,
Sorry.
not going there. I'm going to having a child out of wedlock, which is something that most of us have done. What would be an appropriate punishment for that?
There's an African one which is paying damages, but it's normally only enforced on the man. And these days, the woman doesn't get punished, which I think one of the best ways to fix those things is to punish the girl as well. If a girl knew that as soon as she has a child out of wedlock, she's going to get a whipping and she's going to have to pay money towards people, I think women would be more responsible because the onus of responsibility is not on her. She's this innocent little girl and the guy gets punished.
Yes.
Women are fine to abort because women abort when they're not ready.
Yeah.
But they'll have a child and the guy gets punished. So if women were to also be punished. But anyways, from an African perspective, there's damages.
Yeah.
You can enforce this in legal to say you will pay financial damages or do community service or something. And I mean, in religious countries or that are religious states, they do have more harsher laws in situations. That's why I added cheating, because people get stoned and the likes.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But that's a very harsh punishment.
No. The stoning sounds a bit too harsh for us. But I mean, they'll tell you that, but the people here don't cheat because of that kind of situation. Do you think we should add laws? I think my brothers alluded to the idea of people being, or cheating being criminalized.
Wow.
Yeah. Your thoughts around that? So we spoke about African laws. Ndlovu, by the way, is optional for anyone that doesn't know.
Yeah.
It's a moral obligation. The family might not like you. They might want to deny access, which is illegal. But it's a moral more than a prescriptive legal.
Yeah, you actually don't have to come and pay it if you don't want to.
Not at all. But
but
if we were to make it a law, you violated the laws of this country. Say you cannot sleep with a girl or have a child with her. And then I'd argue, but the girl as well must also take responsibility. Both of you guys knew you're not supposed to sleep with each other. We caught you.
Yes.
So you both have to be punished. You're going to spend 6 months in jail for what you did.
6 months and I'm pregnant.
Sure.
I must spend 6 months in jail.
Maybe even more.
Maybe more.
Your child must be taken away. We're trying to stop behavior that we deem bad for society. It can't be convenient is my thing.
I get you.
So you're thinking, but I'm pregnant. You're like, well, you shouldn't have been, is the whole point.
So
we also don't want you to be here.
So go to jail.
But come suffer so that you learn in future. Because you're going to come next time and be like, well, I'm pregnant again. So clearly I can't go. When you're going to keep falling pregnant and breaking the law.
Yeah.
Because it's uncomfortable. We need you to stop.
And I think that the more we enforce those kinds of laws for men and women, we might actually balance that unfairness that is directed towards men that we were talking about earlier in terms of men being more abusive, men being more this, men being more of that. If we have both participated in a certain act, whether it be physical violence towards each other or whether it be sex, we should both have to deal with the consequences. It shouldn't be one-sided.
I hope more and more men, because I speak out about struggling with access to my kids, and the amount of women and some men that attack me for speaking shows all other men around that this is what happens when you speak out. People throw stones at you, and not everyone has got my mental strength or my support structures, etc. I wish more men could speak out about abuse so that we can get to the root, because when we take things at surface level, we don't solve the problems, and then we all get fake shocked when another woman passes on, or when when we're not speaking, Sbusiso Lawrence was trending. And I'd like to think almost all of us don't agree that he was wrong to take the life of that lady.
For sure.
But there was a lot of then dispute and debate around what led to that point. And the only reason we can do that is because he made a video explaining. If
What
it was just a
happened,
story
yes.
of man kills girlfriend, men are killing us.
We wouldn't have had context of what the situation
100%.
was. And it's not to say that what he did was right.
It was wrong.
It was extremely wrong because taking someone's life in any case, in any situation is just, it's incorrect. You don't do it. But I think it is what you're saying. It is important for us to know what's really happening. And I think a lot of people make assumptions about your situation because they don't really know the ins and outs, myself included. I don't know what's going on there. I just know that you've decided to take away certain things because you're not being given access. And people can judge you for it. But I think when you are, I've seen you, even if it was once, but I've seen you with your kids. I don't want to assume that that's how you are outside of amehla bantu.
Hey.
I don't want to assume that, but in those kind of situations where I see people parent, I like to observe the child more than I do the parent. And it's how your children were interacting with you that made me realize that you are probably this genuine behind closed doors as well. So yeah, to rob people of a father or a relationship with their father it's wrong. Some of us we were not robbed per se. Our fathers were alive, but they were not really that present. And when you have a man who wants to be present and that man is not allowed to be, it's tricky. And not allowed to be, not because this person is dangerous, as in like physically dangerous, this person could harm my child.
So I've spent a lot of time with older people, especially men growing up. And the reason I tell my story so passionately is precisely because of them. Because so many of them never got to tell their stories, don't tell their stories. There are many children growing up saying, well, my dad was available, but he was never there. And you may find there's a story there that you were never told.
Exactly.
And I'm, again, reiterating that I hope more men speak out.
Yeah.
Like myself, even like, and it's very sad, I'm using him as a reference, Sbusiso Lawrence, to be like, guys, we see how the story went. Man meets girl, they get together.
Yeah.
They sort of get married, is what the father said. She cheats. She has a child. Guy, for whatever reason, in summary, forgives, raises the child as his own. She leaves again. This is his narrative, by the way. She's passed on, so
we don't know her
unfortunately,
side.
we can't counter. She leaves, gets with someone, he finds someone else. This is what we normally advise people. Split up. Move on. They did. He says that now he's with someone else. She comes back. And when she comes back, she goes through his phone and she attacks this other woman. And it's in that moment where his mind broke. Because I heard so many people saying, why didn't he just leave her? I'm like, he told us a story of where he left. They left. All the advice you keep giving us, they did it.
Yeah.
They split. He stepped up to be a stepfather to a child that was not his, of which she cheated. He simped. He did the things that, some women are like, oh, what a great man. He forgave her. He did.
Yeah.
But then she still came back. And it got to a point where it was too much for him. And he told us. And it's like, can we get more of those stories so that we can monitor behaviors? This girl just cheated on my son. I just found out this, like, we've seen how these things go. If we keep allowing this thing, something bad's going to happen. So let's nip it in the bud right here.
Yeah.
And then take it forward. I want to deviate a bit since you raised the matter. I don't want to talk about it because I've spoken about it so much before. And I didn't invite you here for that. I would have pre-warned you. I sat with an amazing lady who's an admitted attorney, Uzola. She's an activist as well. She's brilliant. And we sat for, I think, 2 hours. And in the last 40 minutes, she was like, Penuel, I came here to come and address you. And she made me close my book and what, it's available online. And she spoke about my story about not seeing my kids and the decision I made 4 months ago to stop maintaining 3 of my kids out of 7.
Yeah.
Only 3 out of 7. Because of 2 mothers out of 5. I know the numbers are whatever. Judge me, it's okay. But it's not all my kids and it's not all the mothers. And I let her speak for like 15 minutes because I kind of know how the story goes. I let her speak. She said she doesn't really support what I'm doing. She gave me advice. I should go to the courts. There's the children's court. There's a parenting plan. There's family advocates. I listened. She's like, I just don't support this. I was like, thank you. And I'm like, on behalf of other people that are going to be hearing this advice, I hope they take it. Then I told her that I've been documenting my story for years.
Yeah.
And I've been struggling with my one son for 11 years. I've made countless videos. I've made countless posts. But what you learn with human beings is that you're meeting me for the first time. You're engaging a post for the first time. And you're going to take whatever that is, the headline or the video clip or they'll take a clip of a longer video. I'm not going to maintain my kids. This guy's useless. I knew it.
Exactly.
And I'm like, this is why, for some people keep asking, why do you keep telling this story? We know it already. I'm like, there's someone that doesn't know it. And that's why I have to keep telling it, because you're coming to me from an 11-year story for the one child, and you're speaking because you saw like one post that trended.
Exactly.
And it's a reminder to me why I must keep telling it, because there are people that still don't know the story. And even when I tell men to speak out with regards to their kids or anything else, don't do it once. Do it continuously. By Steph. Hey, when I'm jalo, or send your story sam. Man seni story sam. Okay.
Yes.
But otherwise, and even when I go to new places, guys, I don't see my kids. These people don't know the story. They might not know that there are fathers that can't see their kids. There are men that send me DMs every single time I share my story. Thank you so much, my brother. I didn't know. I'm struggling with my kids. Where should I go? I can't be like, oh, come on, Fetu. Why don't you know this? There are people that genuinely don't know. There are people that are becoming fathers for the first time at age 19, 23, that have never encountered this. And they bump into my 11-year story in the 14th year. And they're just like, oh, snap. So I'm not alone.
Yeah.
So I have to keep telling it. I just wanted to deviate and say, I do tell my story a lot, because you're saying you don't know it. I could have been like, what do you mean? I've been making videos.
Yes.
It's unfair to expect that of you or anyone else.
Yeah.
So I normally rehash it over and over. And I told this lady, I've been to courts in different jurisdictions. I know the Children's Act probably more than most clerks of the court. I've been to family advocate, social worker, magistrate, different races, different spaces. Police have been involved and I've seen some of the injustices as if I'm an activist.
Yeah.
So when people say these things and women are like, if you really wanted your kids, you go to the courts. I'm like, I could get triggered. But I understand because you don't actually know. And then the men are like, you don't know. And it's like, guys, let's tell the story, because people actually don't know. Come on, guys. You guys have jobs and stop complaining.
Exactly.
And you're like, no, guys, please talk about apartheid. Talk about oppression. Say my brother was jailed for no reason. Say we don't see our father. Tell your story. And then anecdotal evidence multiplied by people then becomes fact.
Yeah. Because
clearly that's what the authorities and whatever want. And if more of us tell the story, then at least hopefully something will be done about it.
I think the saddest part for me in this whole situation is that if you were a woman who was being robbed of their right to see their child, I don't think people would respond the way they respond to you as a man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
we need to fix that.
We need to fix that. That's the world we live in now, where men deserve no empathy, nothing. It's just like we don't deal, but like everybody has the same emotional compass. It doesn't matter the sex.
So I was on ENCA to tell the story. I said it to Zolambata as well. I was like, it's fascinating to me that the story trends and it becomes a thing.
Yeah.
After 3 months of me saying I want to stop maintaining my kids. But when I was telling my story for 11 years of not seeing my kids, not being invited to platforms to speak about it, no one's losing their shit of, no, let's intervene immediately and make sure. It's me saying I will not maintain.
Yep.
But what about the kids? What about the kids now that I'm reacting? And I'm reacting in the mildest way. Other men, unfortunately, their minds break. They harm the mom or they harm the kids.
Yeah.
Then it's like, but someone should have done something. It's like, but you guys don't listen. Because a year, 2 years from now, let's say me here, sitting here next to you, something happens and my mind breaks. I deal with the mother of my one child, or I meet my child and my child is a mess.
Yeah.
And they tell me all these stories of, while mom was denying access, I was being molested by a step, and I break. and I do something, then people are like, how Nyamazu Penuel or podcaster, hey, do you know he did this? How Begwenzenjan, why didn't he say anything?
Build up. It was a build up.
And it's like, for the rest of you, at least with me, but he's been saying.
Yeah.
And you guys were just bashing him like everyone else, instead of being like, if I genuinely care, I want to go and find out what's going on with these kids. Because if Penuel is really a problem, I want to support the mothers and keep the kids away from him.
Exactly.
So that we're like, Penuel, we know your story, but we found the other side. We're keeping these kids away from you. We're sorry. Or to be like, hey, this guy can't keep telling the story, man. We need to do something, because, again, you let these things slide. Load shedding, water problems, corruption. When we lose power completely, when there's no fuel at the stations, when there's no bread in the shops, and people start, that was not even rioting and looting in KZN, real rioting and looting and burning things, and the country goes to shit. And everyone's like, what happened? You're like, don't fucking ask that.
Yeah.
We've been seeing this bleed arguably since 94. Maybe 94 is still early, but we've been seeing this bleed. Youth unemployment, so-called GBV, domestic violence, fatherless homes, sexually transmitted infections, poverty, income inequality, politicians that are comfortable to be rich and drive G-Wagons and throw T-shirts at abantu that live in shacks. What did you think was going to happen? So when those people start mass murdering the politicians, start burning down big buildings, start kidnapping billionaires, white, black, whatever, and everyone has you're like, don't you dare, because we've been screaming. People are not voting. 17 million people voted. 19 million before that, a bit more before that. People are silently saying something. Oh, the country voted. No, they didn't. 40 million people were meant to vote. Only 17 million of the eligible didn't. And you call this democracy. People are not happy. And even of the 17 million, ANC got 40% of that. So even them, as the so-called kings, are 40% of 17 million of a 40 million eligible of a 63 million complete population. And we're not going to speak about it. And when things start happening, crime and burning things, we're all going to be shocked. Like we don't see and we don't know. We know. But we're happy to play this pub game.
Breaking point is always a series of unfortunate events underneath the breaking point.
Thank you. You made a video that had you attacked, and I'm sorry. I was reminded of the stupidity of the mess. Unfortunately, when we post social media content, our social media isn't split by smart kids here and the slower kids. We have to deal with everyone. You made a video about what a high-value man is. What is a high-value man?
A high-value man is a man with money.
You said period.
Period. And I say that because I think people like to make things sound cute. You know, oh no, he's confident, he's kind, he's genuine. You don't care about that in actuality, because if you did, then you wouldn't treat the boy who comes from an informal settlement who wants to marry your daughter, who is, well, now you are middle class, and you wouldn't treat that boy as a nobody if money wasn't a factor. So people clearly place value on it. Let's just be honest. We believe in our society that a high-value man is a man with money, because a man can have 10 great traits. You take away finance, nobody sees him.
And you got attacked.
Yeah.
A woman like you that are after money, it's like, Dumbos, that's not what she's saying. For fuck's sakes.
Yeah, but it's also how I said it. I mean, if you're not used to satire and you don't understand sarcasm, then you might just miss it. But it's unfortunate that this is the world that we live in, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Do I believe, according to my own personal values, that that's what a high-value man is solely? No, I don't. But it's how society behaves that leaves me with no choice but to believe that a high-value man is a man with money. Because even if a man, he is a serial cheater, he is unfaithful
Sure.
in his marriage. He is abusive
Yes.
emotionally, physically, but he's got money. That man will be respected purely based on the fact that he has money. And there will always be a woman who's willing to be with him based on the fact that he has money. So why lie to people and tell people that you care about a man's integrity when you don't?
You remember when Umseleko bought his wife's Mercedes Benzes?
Yeah,
And
that was a big
a lot
deal.
of South African girls were like, hey, that's his tempo. Actually,
It's not so bad.
maybe I was built for his tempo. That Mercedes Benz looks good.
How fickle is the world that we live in? It's crazy to me that people would actually behave that way, but it all goes back to our primal instincts as men and women. It's all about provide and protect. And then in the context of providing in the society that we live in, it is monetary value. That is what a man who provides does, unemali, period. And he can afford to take care of you. So it's a primal instinct in women to want to be with that man. Now, it is up to you as a person to have discernment. Does this person treat me well? Is he a good example for my future children? Do I want my future children to be like this man? Yes or no? That's up to you.
Do you think it's okay for women to prioritize money?
People can do what they want. In my personal opinion, no, it's not okay.
What do you think they should prioritize,
I
according
think
to you?
there's so many other things that makes a high value man besides that. I'm not saying that a man should be broke. Don't be broke. I'm not saying be broke. I'm not saying don't have ambition or have a plan to work towards having money. I'm just saying that finances shouldn't be the number one on the list. And we compromise so many of our quote unquote morals for money. Because when I'm even in circle of friends, your friends will know that that man is married. But how
Of course.
we're
We're all living soft because of this nigga.
living soft because even in families,
100%.
they will accept that married man and be like, "Hi, what is that?"
Poverty.
Yes, it's poverty mindset. Like, no, guys, we can't be living like that. So no, I don't agree. Also, my opinion of what a high value man is very different from another person's.
What's your opinion and what should be number one if not money?
I don't know how to describe this, but this is what I value.
Sure.
And I can't put it in English, unfortunately. I'm going to have to say it in vernacular in order for me to be able to deliver this message to you.
Khululeka.
Angifuni indoda engakwazi ukuhlinza inkomo mina. You can't slaughter a goat. You can't slaughter a cow. Ufike emngcwabeni uswenkile. Yabazi labo bhuti abafika emngcwabeni umkhanyana usefika emngcwabeni naye usefaka izaza ufaka i-3-piece suit uyinto nje yena engathinte. I don't like, that's not what I value. I'm not saying don't, but I'm saying what I value in a man. For me, it's how you show up as a man. Angifuni indoda who doesn't know how to put themselves last in certain situations. You don't have to show up as your entire being. We know that you are the medical doctor with 50,000 degrees. You drive this big car. You live in a fancy house. Sesikhaya-ke manje. Kushoniwe. Iphi overall blue? Yes.
Ew.
That's how you show up for your spouse in situations like that, because the opposite is also expected of a woman. Mekshoniwe as a wife. I'm expected to be there on Friday. I'm chopping. Gifagi dug. My corporate job doesn't matter right now. The nails don't matter right now. This is the situation that we're dealing with. This is how I'm showing up for my man. So I don't like a man who has a high level of self-preservation, because that indicates to me that you're selfish. You don't know how to read the room. I like a man who is generous. Doesn't have to have money, but he can be generous. Because a lot of you are in relationships. You've never even seen that guy's payslip. You don't know how much he earns. You just see the car. You just see the house. You have no understanding of his level of financial literacy. This big car and big house may be provided by a massive amount of debt, but you just see the flash and the money that he gives you. So you're not concerned about this man's ability to create a stable home from a financial perspective. You're just worried about what you're getting out of it. So for me, it may be different than the masses. And I understand that I'm an outlier in this case, but I know that there are many women who think like me. I value how present you are as a father, if you are a father. And if you're not, I can already tell by how present you are in our relationship if you're going to be present with our children or not. I value how much you can give from whatever you have. A lot of women are living in mansions and these men are stingy. Akakuniki lutho. He's providing you with the outward glam. And also, I appreciate a man who's going to pour into me. Are you intelligent? What am I learning from you? What are you teaching me? And when I'm with you, does your energy allow me to be in my femininity? Am I willingly and happily submitting to you as the head? Those are the things that I value.
Ufuna insizwa eqotho.
No, ngifuna insizwa eqotho mina. Angimfuni mina cheese boy ozofika lapha yane. Hey guys, no, guys.
You'd like a man to be hands-on when it comes to problem solving.
Yes.
Generally.
Be a problem solver.
But more hands-on than financial.
Yes.
Because the easy counter is I'm in my suit because I can hire boys to slaughter.
That's not you.
I can hire people to come fix your car. I've got the means. But for some reason you want me to be on my knees changing your tire.
Self-preservation.
Sure. So a man who's hands-on in problem solving, or is that ability comfortably to do so?
Yep. Don't be too high on the self-preservation scale. I think mass media has pushed this agenda and modern culture has pushed this agenda of me. Me first, then you. And we've glamorized it. Oh no, if this situation is not serving me, ma'am, sir, not everything has to serve you. There's joy in living a life of service to others. And when we tip that scale, we end up with a bunch of narcissistic sociopaths.
A lot of men, the men you're describing, in my personal opinion and experience, really struggle with women that earn well. Because those women struggle to be with men like that for various reasons. Why are you wearing an overall? What the hell? I mean, you're going to make us look bad. And those women struggle with the same dynamic that you're speaking about. I'm a cheese girl, where they also, I just did my nails. Can we not hire like a team? I can pay for like a catering to chop. Why are we chopping onions in 2025? Your opinion of a high value woman before I give you my opinion.
High value woman, primal instinct, beauty. In terms of primal instinct.
A high value woman
physical
is
appearance.
A pretty woman.
Physical appearance. I need to be said the high value man.
Provision.
So if you
and
look
that's not necessarily you. We're speaking generally.
Yes, generally.
Okay.
If you're looking for like primal instinct perspective, a man is attracted first to a woman's physical appearance.
So if you made that video, you'd be like, a high value man, a high value woman
is her beauty.
Is a pretty woman.
Yeah. Because let me tell you, there's a reason why J-Lo got married that many times.
Ngoba muhle.
Despite the fact that she had children from a previous, it didn't matter. Men are also willing to overlook a lot of disrespect and a lot of things based on ubuhle bomuntu wesifazane.
Yeah.
It's shallow. It's not right.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And we can't run away from it. And it's also about, yes, can this woman carry my child? I look at her hips and her bums. That signals to me as a man that, no, this one, she's fertile.
This tofu is a smack.
Yes.
The hips and the bums is a smack.
Yes. It's like, okay, she can carry, right? That's what we know that men are looking for or looking at. But then a lot of men will get to know a woman and they will decide based on indepumala,
Yes.
nendela, ukuthi nah.
They're staying or not.
Yeah.
So the initial thing is looks.
Yes.
And then the man assesses.
Yes.
For a woman, the initial thing is, does he have money?
Yes.
But she'll still stay, even if he's a bit trashy.
Yes. And there are men who will still stay with disrespectful, unintelligent, lazy women based on the fact that
Ark. Look, girling in pairs at first.
She's a 10.
Okay. I wanted to say something. Men are visual, women are... Yeah.
Provide and protect. That's the most important thing, for women.
Oh, okay. Let me ask this before I step in. What is your personal definition of a high-value woman?
A high-value woman is intelligent. She is...
Is that first?
No, in no particular order.
Okay, go for it, and then I'll force you to choose one.
She's intelligent, and I don't mean book intelligent. It doesn't always have to mean academic. There's various levels of intelligence. It depends on what you value as a person and what kind of intelligence sparks your arousal when you're speaking to a woman or interacting with a woman. She is confident. She is selfless to a certain degree. She is more concerned with her moral compass, yena self, her values that have been instilled either through her parents or whatever it may be, her religion, whatever it is, than how she looks on the outside. That doesn't take priority to a high-value woman. You have a question?
No, I'm trying to process what you're saying. I wanted to ask this. Could we define being hardworking as a form of intelligence? So there are women that don't speak.
Yeah.
They may not be the greatest problem solvers.
Yes.
But you put them in a space.
And they work hard.
Could that be considered a form of intelligence? Because we normally
There's 5
don't.
different forms of intelligence, right? What are they again? There's emotional, there's...
5 intelligence, abelungu. Okay. Please go for it.
5 or 8. I think, I can't remember all of them, but I know there's like emotional intelligence. Being street smart is also a form of intelligence. There's a word for it. There's a fancy English word for being street smart. And yeah, can you Google them there? There's
This is weird.
Variety.
5 forms of intelligence.
Yeah. There's also...
Howard Gardner's theory, sorry. There's also...
Yeah. There's also, I think there's something like kinetic intelligence, like people who dance well.
According to Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, or Howard Abelungot, there are 7 main types. Yeah. Bodily, kinesthetic.
Kinesthetic, that's
ability to use the body and manipulate objects.
Yeah.
Often with a sense of timing. This is athletes, dancers, surgeons, and craftspeople. Spatial. The ability to think abstractly and in multiple dimensions. This type of intelligence is important for fields like architecture, graphic design, photography, interior design. Linguistic.
Speaking.
This one is actually probably one of the most, I don't know if I'd call it overrated, but the most noticeable.
Yeah.
Politicians, pastors, people on boards of companies. The ability to master language, including reading, writing, speaking, and comprehension. So you may not be able to solve problems, but here, Baba.
Uyakwazi ukubhala and relay certain types of information because it's not just speaking.
Interpersonal, the ability to understand the emotions, intentions, motivations, and desires of others. People with strong interpersonal intelligence are often good at communication and conflict resolution. Logical, mathematical. The ability to think rationally, perform mathematical equations, and identify relationships between concepts. This might be academic.
Yes, that is more academic.
People with strong logical, mathematical intelligence are often good at scientific experimentation. Is that 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Oh man, they only gave us 5 here. Where are the rest?
You might have to go into the thing.
I don't want to go into the thing. I swear.
But yes, there's various levels of intelligence. So what you're saying...
There's 2 articles that say 8.
Yes, there's some people say 5, some say 7, some say 8. There's various levels or different forms of intelligence. So a hardworking person, I do think that's part of being an intelligent person.
Musical intelligence, sensitivity to rhythm, pitch, meter, tone, melody, and timbre. These are singers, musical conductors, DJs, music teachers, songwriters, composers. Which other ones are here that we missed? Intrapersonal intelligence. Sensitivity to one's own feelings, goals, and anxieties. I guess this is self-awareness. And the capacity to plan and act in light of one's own traits. Internal personal intelligence. Naturalistic intelligence. The ability to understand the nuances in nature, including the distinction between plants, animals, and other elements of nature and life. Notable individuals with naturalistic intelligence includes Charles Darwin and Jane Goodall. Potential career choices: geologist, farmer, botanist, biologist, conservationist, florist. Those were the ones that were missed. 8 types of intelligence by Howard Gardner.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'd Tembe, while you're here, one of the questions I asked him is, do I think he's the smartest person on the African continent? And he obviously gave me a smart answer. But before that, he kind of laughed because I think he was like, well, Penuel, I mean, if you insist. I think I told him at the time, which is my belief, that I think the ability to solve problems is now my measure of intelligence. Where growing up, it was the ability to source as much information as possible, process it, and then articulate it, linguistic, as well as possible. So at school, it's cram, regurgitate when needed.
Yes.
That's how you get high marks.
Yeah.
In normal society, it's how much knowledge do you have? Oh, I know what they put in Coca-Cola. Do you know these cameras use? Also, you have a lot of little information. You process it, and then when it's time to articulate it, it sounds brilliant. But I now believe it's the ability to solve problems is my definition of intelligence. And the bigger the problems you solve, the more intelligent you are. There are people that can solve big problems but struggle with small ones. That definitely happens. It's not just because you can build rockets and go into outer space, you're a good father.
It's true.
And you know how to keep your house clean. Sadly, it's not always linear like that. But there are people that solve small problems. Your domestic worker that cleans your house, your PA that solves your what. But then they're struggling with bigger things like how to increase their income, how to fix their family problems. But the bigger the problems, the more complex the problems you can solve for me, regardless of how you do it. You could do it through violence. You could do it through colonization. You could do it, whatever it is. I deem you intelligent because you found a problem and you solved it. However you solved it, you delegated, you found a smart person, whatever it is, there was a problem and you solved it and it's you. For me, I define intelligence as that. So I'm just thinking, Kono Sisi, in what you were saying, that may not be smart here, or on papers, or they don't earn well, but you put them in a space and they just work. And you're like, you know what? I'd rather have a woman like this than a PhD who...
For sure, for sure. And it goes back to those various forms of intelligence. I don't think when we think intelligence, unfortunately, most people just think academia, and there's just so much more than that.
Yeah. I do agree with the primal and provision for men in particular. I've found that women are brilliant at provision and we don't speak about it enough. Not at the same level. And you'll find historically women were brilliant at provision outside of money. And I think the English word is industrious. So your mom didn't have the money, but she managed to negotiate with the principal for a bursary. She managed to go and speak to the neighbors with their blazer. So she was providing. She managed to move you guys to her parents' home to get you shelter. It's not buying a house, but she got you guys a safe home.
Exactly.
She provided.
Yes.
Kind of situation. So
women can also be highly resourceful as well.
Highly resourceful.
Yeah.
There are single mothers where the father's absent for whatever reason, he's passed away, he doesn't care, whatever, who will find strong male role models for their children. That's a form of resourcefulness and industriousness to be like, I've identified this. Sorry, can you please spend time with my kids? Sorry, can my kids join your little club? I'll pay the membership fees because I see this is a strong male role model and it's going to be something I want my kids to model themselves against as an example. So provision, definitely. And I wouldn't so much agree with beauty with you when it comes to high value women. With the man.
Primal.
No, it's okay. I don't mind what you said. So man provision and how we see it in modern society is Gucci. Everyone is like, whatever. Okay, we're going to eat here. My kids will have food at a basic level, of which you almost want the same thing, but not at a surface level. You're like, he can have money, but I want to see him when the money is pushed to the side.
Yeah.
To what you're saying, can he slaughter a car, which means nothing in the real world.
Exactly.
But to you, it's like, can this guy make means? Or will it only happen if his card can be swiped?
Exactly.
Or if you can e-wallet the guy who's slaughtering?
Not every problem needs money as a solution.
Sure. Or money won't work. Technology is down. The Zim dollars become... Can you do anything else besides swipe just because your dad left you a trust fund kind of thing? So I understand that. Physical strength is no longer important because the world has changed. Sadly, it used to be a huge commodity that this man can physically protect us. Other men can be smashed with his fist. He can lift things. If he can lift things, he'll be hired for the jobs that need strength. We don't have that anymore. As we become more of an influencer generation, looks are becoming a thing because mothers are like, I want kids with good hair, whatever that means. Light-skinned kids, because they look good in pictures, they can become influencers. That becomes a commodity even for the woman. To be like, oh, your kids are stunning. Your mixed race kids with their German father. So that has also become something, I think, for women in a man. Because I don't know if there's a provision aspect, but I see a lot of women willing to have kids with colored white men because the kids will look light-skinned and they'll get a better reception from society.
Pretty privilege, yes.
Surname, unfortunately, not so much anymore. It's a bonus, but surnames don't carry as much weight. Hey, the kings maybe might still have that. You married a king, you married a Mutsipe. But outside of that, Ukumalo from where? It could be Ukumalo the drunkard, it could be Ukumalo Onamapas, so you never know. Sure. So we'll take the provision. I'll take the provision and I'll add a little bit of maybe aesthetic, a little bit for some women, especially women who have a bit more money. They're willing to compromise on the age, on the provision, because they're fine.
Yeah.
So maybe if he's good looking and he'll give me good kids, maybe if his conversation's great, maybe if we are too mega, simp, at least. From a male perspective, the reason I don't agree with beauty as number one, by the way, I'm not saying it is. I think beauty is definitely the interview. Would like to invite you to an interview. So see a woman immediately, you see her hips, you see the ass, and then you get closer and then you interview, to what you were saying.
Yes.
So some guys in the interview, they date, they then leave. But I really think what men are looking for after seeing is, I don't know if the term is purity.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
And it's easy to say
Low
purity.
body count.
It's easy to say purity is virginity. But it's more, how physically preserved are you? Because the more bodies you've had, the more children you've had, I really don't see you as high value.
Yeah.
You're high value at 5 kids from 5 baby daddies. And everyone knew at varsity that you used to sleep with guys to pay school fees. And you're like, but Donna, she's hot, therefore high value. I don't think so.
There are men who think like that.
No. Nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not saying you're wrong and I'm right. I'm just saying
it's a nuanced conversation. I get it.
I think purity might be potentially number one, figuring out, because even a guy who's dating that girl, that hot girl with multiple baby daddies, he's going to meet the guy with a prettyish girl who's a virgin. And he's like, oh.
Is he going to feel some type of way? Like on the real, do you guys feel some type of way?
Yeah. It's like she's untainted. No guy's ever...
Tainted.
Untainted. I'm just speaking nature.
Such a heavy word.
Hey, sex is a form of violence. And the more men you've lain on your back for and allowed to penetrate and pummel you.
Yeah.
That you've allowed to physically conquer you and maybe even psychologically. This woman's never had a man conquer her physically as an animal. And I'm going to be the first to open her up and potentially plant in her. That's fertile land. Kind of situation. That's why some guys have this thing of, as long as her firstborn son is from you, kind of thing. There's those weird things like that. Or as long as she has your firstborn, kind of. Those become things. Because if you have my firstborn, it's like in Ndlovu. The assumption is that I was the first person to conquer you.
Right.
Other guys may have impregnated you, but you didn't feel, Charles Darwin, that you wanted their species to be bred in you. So you killed them. But this one, Penuel, you're like, no, this one has to cook here. I'm going to be the plant where this thing is born. And even as a woman, I've seen it. You guys don't say it much. There's something about women with a gent like me who has multiple baby mamas, where the woman's like, but I gave him his firstborn son.
Yeah. It's a thing.
So, I mean, who are you?
Who are you in the greater scheme
Well,
of
I gave him
things?
5 daughters. Ooh, shame. I gave him his firstborn son. So you can just calm down there, girly. Purity. Next to purity, I don't know if it's the same thing because it's got 2 different words. Respect and humility. A woman will go very far, and it's something that your generation struggles a lot with because of women empowerment, your education, corporate that forces you to be strong and loud and visible. Respect and humility. This thing they call the silent or quiet strength, quiet power, where a woman comes into a place. I think Noxolo has done this in his political career, where you come into a space and you know when to keep quiet and you know when to let 48 laws of power to not outshine the master.
Yeah.
So a woman that plays that role of being the neck, of being submissive, even though we're a ninja, you're gaming when you're at home. But wherever you are, other men, purity, men will talk about no one's ever tainted her. Sure, it could be a personal thing. But when we're amongst and we're watching all our women move and we're seeing your woman greet every man, not looking at them in the eyes, being down, sanbona babangazi noma itiye. And then your girls are like, oh, we've got a presentation next week and I can't believe my bond is going up. That other woman is just there, shy itiye. And then you find out she's the neurosurgeon.
Exactly.
And you're like,
Exactly.
What the fuck is going on here?
Yep.
If you've ever watched Blackish, I don't know if you've ever watched Blackish.
Yes, I did.
There's an episode where Rainbow is a GP, I think.
Yes, she is.
She's a GP, and there's this mommy's club in the neighborhood, these white women. And they get together and they have tea and they do aerobics. And she's like, at some point they clash. And she's like, well, the thing is, my life's busy. I'm a doctor. And this white woman's like, yeah, but I'm a neurosurgeon. So I'm not sure what's your
point.
And it's like, oh, shit. So that I think for men, respect, humility, ukuzotha. Because women, women want love from a man. Men want respect from a woman. A woman can tell you she loves you a million times, but if she's not respecting you, it means
That's
nothing.
true.
A man can respect you, disrespect you. Women want to feel loved. Men want to feel respected.
Yeah.
So next to purity, which is a personal thing that I value you highly because you're pure to me. Body count, or you just haven't been in the streets. You could be a virgin, but you everywhere. No, dog. When everywhere uyaziwa nje. Oh no, last week at Java phezu kwamatafula. You're like, no, she's a virgin. You're like, kodwa khulunywa kanje ngaye.
She's a virgin, but she's allowed too much access.
Yeah. So that type of purity.
Yeah.
And exclusivity. But the respect, humility.
It's a big one.
Submission. In the midst of people.
I agree.
In you could be, let's not say cheating. You could be toxic at home. But the way my parents talk about you, the way the neighbors talk about you, the way she's so respectful, the way she carries the kids, the way she carries herself, when there's places, the social media thing has become a big currency for us. And I've come to realize that the highest value women, unfortunately, it's sad, have the most boring social media.
Yeah, that's true.
So if your chick is there half naked on socials, beauty. Yep. Niggas want to smash.
Attract. The magnet.
But that woman versus the woman with 3 pop pictures of her, and then you see and she is pretty.
Yes.
But she's covered up and no one is speaking about her. That like on like, I think gents will put more money here.
Definitely.
To be honest.
Definitely.
So yeah.
I agree with you. When we get into the nitty-gritties of everything.
Sure.
I agree.
The nitty-gritties.
Yeah.
Okay, have I got anything else for you? Asambe manje. How long have we been chatting for?
I don't even know.
Huh?
2 hours.
Can't be 2 hours. 1 hour.
Nah.
45. 1 hour 45. Can you shut it down? There's nothing burning you. Oh, I've got 2 things here.
Go.
I don't know.
What?
The relevance of or irrelevance of marriage is something you and I have debated offline.
Yeah.
And why smart people struggle to make money. I'll leave out the smart people and money for another sit down.
I'd rather do the reverse, but it's fine.
The thing is, we've been speaking about relationships.
Yeah, that's true.
So the other one is more. Are you happy to close on that? We could park
Yes, we
it.
can close on that. We can
We can park it.
No, we can close on.
Or we can park it.
Just say you want to pocket.
I'm asking you what's burning.
No.
Maybe you want to see free Nelson Mandela.
No.
Kzndlovu, get out, Baba. It's a safe space.
What did you mention before? The smart people who can't make money?
The relevance or irrelevance of marriage.
Yes. No, let's close on that one. That's fine. Okay. That's good.
Thank you.
We disagree on this one.
You can I be personal?
Hi, how personal are you going to get?
I can't.
Hi.
No.
No, what are you going to say? Yo, in front of people.
Are you sure? A little bit.
Okay, a little bit. Let me hear.
You're a return soldier?
Yes, I
From
am.
Mpini?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I know.
But I'm a return soldier who still believes
in the war.
In the war.
So fele Mpini. Siyakhona phakathi phambili baba. Freedom or death.
I think marriage is... Everything else in life has changed. Society has progressed. But marriage has kind of stayed the same. I think if we reframe how we think about marriage, we might have a chance of actually seeing healthier and more long-term marriages. So I don't think marriage should be an automated forever. Like just because now we've signed this contract, that means we are bound till death do us part. It should come with a list of things that need to be adhered to in order for this contract to still be deemed valid. That's what I believe. I believe marriage should be 5-year contract at most.
You're stealing my ideas now.
Am I?
Or these ideas from like 10 years ago.
No, I honestly think
with an option to renew.
Yes, with an option to renew, because think about, no shade, government employees and how complacent and lazy they become and how nothing ever gets done. It is because psychologically they know retrenchment. What is that? What is that? I'm still going to have a job at the end of the day, because it takes a lot for government to actually fire people. They generally just don't do it. Or retrench people. They don't do it. So for as long as we're operating within a system where this forever is like a guarantee, then nobody is actually willing to do any of the work in order for this contract to work. Do you understand? So we need to check in. Yearly, there needs to be reviews, just like when you're in the job. This is where you did well. This is where you underperformed. Every year, there needs to be goals. What are the objectives this year in our marriage? We can't just lahlela ourselves and then, that's it. And that's the biggest issue that I have with marriage and why I think it doesn't work. If we just changed that, we might actually see more fulfilling and long-lasting relationships and marriages if that was in place, in my opinion.
If that annual review were to be negative, you believe in people getting out?
Yes.
Divorcing?
Yes.
Before the 5-year term is done?
Yes.
So it's not even a 5-year term?
Yes. Well, it could
be a 1-year term.
It could be a 1-year. Let's
put a 6-month term.
If you have underperformed in this year, let's say it's year 1, you didn't do well. What would probably happen in a corporate structure is that you will be put on a performance improvement plan.
Correct.
What do you intend on doing to make this better? We will give you another chance to make it better. When we review the next year, if there's a 20-30% improvement, depending on what you value as improvement or how much needs to be an improvement in your books, then yes, there's clearly a willingness of continuous improvement. And every marital contract should have therapy as a prerequisite. It's a non-negotiable. If you don't go, you are saying you are no longer interested.
With therapy.
I do, because we're all messed up and we all don't know who we are. And we all need to figure ourselves out in order for us to show up as our best selves in our relationships. So if you're not willing to do that work, that is final written warning, dismissal. It's done.
Why not 1 year with an option to renew every year? Why 5 years? I know it was just a number.
Yeah.
Why not 1 year with an option to renew?
I think 5 years is a good amount of time to give somebody a chance of improvement.
But you still say they can divorce after year 1?
Yes, but if you're not trying to improve.
Sure.
So in year 1, if you out of 100 are a 20%, you failed.
So the judge won't allow you guys the divorce because he improved by 20%, is what you're saying?
Yes.
It's like rather wait it out till 5 years.
Yes. Let's see if
He is improving.
He's
Yes, you're not
improving.
happy, but Siswam, he's improving.
Yes, and he's trying, and there's an active trying that you can see it as well as a person. That umuntu actually is showing up here, and they're actually willing. Oh, bless
Sorry.
you.
Thank you.
And they're actually willing to do the work. So let's give the person a chance. I don't believe that the first year is a fail and that's it. No,
Sure.
we're not. That's not, no. Because you could go into, you could meet somebody else and have the same experience yet again. Are you going to give up again and not give this person a chance again? Like, give people some room for improvement.
So you like me, you don't believe in marriage.
I do
Just
believe
like
in it.
forever. You only
I
just
do.
add the forever.
Yeah, I don't believe in it forever. If people are not showing up, you don't deserve to be with someone or have that level of companionship forever. Just like if you're not showing up for your job, you don't deserve to have one.
You mentioned contract twice. Is that what marriage is to you, a contract?
Yes, it's a contract.
Not love, not coexisting.
No, Pela, obviously those things are the, what is it? What's the word? The catalyst in a marriage happening. There needs to be love, companionship before. But that's why I'm saying the contract needs to be very detailed, taking into account the things that you both value as individuals and the things that you value in the marriage. That's why I spoke about goals. We're not just going to get married to get married. What are our financial goals? What are our goals for our family if we plan to have children? How do we plan to raise them? Those are things that we need to know. And a lot of people are entering into marriages with no vision and mission. Siyashada nje ngoba sifuna the dress, the ring.
Do you think
But what
everyone
is it for?
everyone should be forced into a workshop before they sign the contract to be like, in this 5-day workshop, we're going to do money, we're going to do
Yes.
children,
Yes.
we're going to do living arrangements, and then we're going to do troubleshooting and FAQs and any problems. What happens if he cheats? What if she cheats? What if she falls
Yes.
pregnant outside? What if he gets a woman pregnant?
Yep.
What if he hits you? And then after you guys have completed these tasks, then we give you a certificate that authorizes that you can
Oh, I love that idea.
now get married.
It might have to be a 2-week workshop, but I love that
It
idea.
might need to be a 6-month or 30-year
Yeah.
workshop.
Awusazigugile phela manje siya.
Yeah,
like-
ngizoshada manje sena 60. Andiphasi la. Ngiloko ngifaila every year ngiyafaila. Maybe a 2-week workshop, and then once you've gone through the workshop and you guys have worked through it, and whoever the administrator is,
Yeah.
they're like, I think these people are ready to get married. They sign off.
Yeah. And you can't go to a lawyer or home affairs and sign without that sign off.
Strong. So marriage to you is it's a merger. It's a business contract that's set down, that's technical, that's rigid, that's cold. It's not abstract feeling. I felt deeply in love with her when I saw her. I was like, this is going to be my wife. She was
Yeah.
like, you look like my husband.
Yeah.
We had a whirlwind romance for 4 weeks. I was like, I don't want to not spend my life with you. And she was like, I think I feel the same. And we got married in week 5.
That's
it shouldn't be that.
infatuation.
You don't believe in marriage in those conditions.
No, you
You
infatuated.
want to sit with the cold, go through the harsh, go
Yep.
through the, what if I slap you? We'll
Yep.
work it out. What if?
Yes. I don't think having a business contract, as you put it, is cold. I don't think so. Because now we're entering into marriage for the sake of being married. Like, I believe more that there should be a goal and a purpose.
People that don't believe in what you're saying, in your opinion, shouldn't believe in marriage.
Yes.
Then it doesn't make sense.
What do you mean
It's
doesn't
stupid.
make sense?
I'm asking, is it stupid for them being like, all of that sounds too technical
Stupid
and
is a
corporate?
very harsh word. You are just not using your mind. You're
Right.
not giving your brain a chance to work.
Yeah.
You're not being realistic. You are living in La La Land. And speak to anyone who is married or has been married.
But I love him.
They will tell you
But I love him.
it's not good enough.
Why not? Love is care.
No. It's not good enough. Because when you're in the trenches and when ish happens.
Do you know, in a court of law, if you're drunk, if you're on drugs, if you're being threatened, whatever contract you sign becomes null and void because you're not in the right state of mind.
Those conditions, yes.
Because
I also think that
right
people shouldn't get married before 25. That's what I think. Right?
Because you're not in the right state of mind.
Yes.
I was in love. Not in the right state of...
No, you just mentioned drugs.
I know. I said they were like, but I'm in love with him.
No, you're not in love. You're infatuated.
So they're not in the correct state of mind.
Yes. You can't...
They have a mental illness.
Oh my God.
I'm just asking. They're not in the right state of mind.
And I keep saying
because they're in love and it's not good enough.
You don't want to hear it because you are Penuel and Unengani. Infatuation versus love. Two different things. Don't confuse those two things. People want to get married when they are in the highs and everything is perfect. And they don't think about the lows because it can get very low.
I disagree with you at 25. Why is it not good enough for two 18-year-olds to go through the workshop and ace it and get married?
The last conversation we had, we spoke about prefrontal cortex, logical brain. So there's evidence that says that brain only fully develops around 25.
And you believe that?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, I do.
Some of the people that have changed the world. I mean, if you look at like about Tupac's and other people.
That's great.
But my age 20 and stuff.
That's great.
The revolutionaries we've had, their peaks of their careers were in their early 20s.
Wonderful. It doesn't change the fact that, look, we all have different levels of maturity.
Yes.
But if you are saying you're getting married at 25, that is an amygdala-driven decision. Before
science.
25.
That's a white science decision.
Yes, a white science. What do you mean?
So as Africans, we used to get married young. Not even as Africans. I think even the Christians, the Muslims,
yes,
they get married young.
Getting married young.
The families would deliberate and there would be a lot of conversation and talk. And they were like, this is what's happening. But now you're coming with white science and saying after matric and your degree and you're now a graduate, therefore developed, therefore marriage.
No, I'm saying your logical brain is not fully developed. So the decision you may be making, because now we're not living in those times where our parents used to sit together and decide that these two people are getting married. We're living in the modern world. We're talking about what would work for a modern marriage. I'm saying if you are below 25, your logical brain is not working properly yet.
There's a body count it in at 25. For Muntus Mama that you have to marry. Because our phone is bashade been at 16. Ufuna sibashade been at 25. Sebe kudle bakudla.
Umuntu ongakwazi ukucabanga kahle.
Usisona 25 years ukabanga? Sorry. That was a bit harsh. You're telling me people over 25 are smarter than 20-year-olds?
I'm telling you the science.
The women at 25 are desperate for marriage because they've been googling the streets.
No, that is true.
I'm ready to settle.
I'm not saying that's not true. Multiple truths can exist at the same time. I'm saying to you that from
according
my
to science,
perspective,
you believe the brain is fully developed at 25.
That logical part of your brain. So
the decision is more
The decision
logical.
will probably be a bit more sound.
Yeah.
And you will probably be able to make a non-amygdala, emotional-driven decision. And you will look at logic.
Yeah.
More than you will all the other stuff. Now, we all have, again, different temperaments, different levels of maturity. So that is also a thing. But if I were to structure marriage, I would say no before 25.
What about sex? 25? Prefrontal cortex, the amygdala.
Yeah.
Sex as well.
Yeah, it's fine.
Why is that just how it's fine?
Yeah.
Why are you not getting passionate about that as well?
No, I'm not going to get passionate about that for my own personal reasons, which I do not wish to get into.
Right.
We're not talking about sex here also. We're talking about marriage specifically.
Right. So I've said before, we had the elections in 2024, that I think this whole thing of allowing everyone to vote is bullshit. And it allows all types of dumb people with agendas to come in. And I think, so I'd make it 16. But we could probably allow for exceptional cases at 14. I think everyone should write a political literacy test and pass it and then be allowed to vote, because there are many uneducated, undereducated, miseducated people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s that get manipulated with a grant, with promises of bullshit. And just because you're 65 doesn't mean you're wiser than a 17-year-old who's actually read political literature, who understands how government works, who knows the accountability frameworks and channels, etc. So I do the same when it comes to this, especially if we agree on the 5-year expiry with option to renew. You get married at 17, in 5 years you're 22. You're like, I think I was young. We kind of didn't know what we were doing, but at least we've got this badge. And now at 22, I can, versus starting to make those mistakes at 25. And the first time you can opt out is at 30. And now you guys were rushing because women's bodies biologically start expiring at 28.
Yeah.
So your peak fertility as a woman, I think, is my 18, 19, 20.
Yes, that's true.
And now you're telling me to get married at 25, where I've got 3 years to pop babies, which means that first mistake of yours, he's going to pop babies from 25 to 30. You want to divorce him, and now I'm getting you at 30.
Yeah.
And already now, where I could have gotten you at 18, 19, and we could have hustled something.
When you look at it from that perspective, it makes sense. So
Anything
I agree
else?
with you, but I agree with myself as well.
Anything else you'd like to say in closing? Shout out to Penuel. He's the greatest man. High value, highest value on earth in every respect.
Pen is cool. He's cool.
I'll take it.
Yeah, he's genuine guy. If ever you wanted to know what an honest person looks like, even when it's uncomfortable, Penuel is that guy. I think closing remarks, something that I'd like to leave people with is be more vigilant, cognizant, understand what's happening in the world, be more curious. That's always my message. A curious mind is the mark of intelligence.
Hey. Noxolo Mhlongo, thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to having you again at
In
some
6
point.
months.
6 years. In 5 years, the option to renew.
Okay. Good luck. You might not be able to get hold of me.
Shut it down.
Thank you, guys.